All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the January 2026 North Precinct Advisory Council meeting. We're happy you're here. I noted somebody just triggered AI-generated meeting summaries. I will tell you that we record these and we will provide the chat in our minutes, so those are available. Those are more accurate, and we have not used AI because there are so many acronyms in this meeting that they're so far wrong that we don't think it's terribly valuable. So just FYI, you can get the whole meeting, you can watch it on YouTube, you can see the chat, we have minutes, so you're pretty well covered. So thanks for coming, everybody. I'm Katie Dwyer. I don't think I said that. I'm the North Precinct Advisory Council President this year. And again, I'm glad you took a little time to be here. If you haven't attended North PAC before, I know I think, had a number of new folks that said they were coming. We've been around for over 25 years. We're a volunteer group of North Seattle residents living in various neighborhoods that are served by the North Precinct. We have, as we always like to say, we have no budget. We are just trying to serve the purpose of connecting people with conversations with City of Seattle leadership, especially with this SPD North Precinct, because we believe that we all need to be talking to each other respectfully and in a respectful tone of voice so that we can all hear each other and try to solve problems together. So that is our goal. We are a lot of people, and so to try to do effective things in 90 minutes, we do make heavy use of the chat. Please, anytime you have a question, whether it's for the current speaker or not, you can go ahead and put it in the chat. When a speaker's done presenting, I read the questions out or I pull them, so I'll scan and I'll find ones related to that speaker. We do that to ensure that all those questions are included into the meeting recording easily for everybody to find. And again, we want those comments to be respectful and focused, please. If you have questions, you can certainly explain a situation, but we ask that you keep all of your comments respectful and focused on how we work together to find solutions. So thank you. We occasionally do have time to open up for questions live, but that's not very often. So we do ask you to keep yourselves muted so there are no interruptions. Please check to make sure you're muted now. Otherwise, we will mute you. And again, we want diverse conversations. So if you're one of those very comfortable people who get your hands up a lot, don't be offended if you don't get called on every single time, because we're looking for a variety of people's input and opinions. So I want to call out, although people see me up here, we have a great board that participates in creating all of the agendas. Our vice president is Susan Strank. Then we have board members Leon Seaman, Diane Vincent, Nancy Rawhauser, and Melinda Jacobson. And thanks to all of them for all of their time they put into helping us develop our meetings. I also always like to call out, because there are some other resources usually available to you if you look around at the names on the Zoom or at the faces, for those of us who are willing to be on Zoom with our faces. We get very good participation from our city council members. They tend to either show up themselves or send representatives. So they tend to be on here. I always ask them to call themselves out, wave on, or put them in a chat, because you may have questions, and when they're listening, they may be able to answer it for you or ping you with a resource they can help with. So from District 4, Maritza Rivera's, Wendy Sykes is often here. I don't know if she's here today. For Deborah Juarez in District 5, it's Paul Menifee. I don't know if he's here. Dan Strauss, District 6. I think I just saw Joel Raphael log in. Yep, there he is. There are two at-large folks don't often show up, but Alexis Rink is position 8, and Dion Foster is our new position 9. Also, before we dive into our speaker for tonight, I want to call out that next meeting is Wednesday, February 4th. And we will have the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office Elder Abuse Unit. Paige Ulrey will be speaking to us, so please do note that. Also, one change in the agenda for tonight. Unfortunately, the City Attorney's Office had to cancel their representative who usually joins us. No reason given. And so we have a little flexibility, and I'm going to slip in another update that we were requested to do. So slight change to the agenda, but we'll tell you as we go along. So with that, I am going to find Devante. There you are. Devante, welcome. Devante's with the care unit, and he is going to talk to us about 911 operations and reporting. And hang on, one second, Devante, I have to take you off. I have to give you the power to be a co-host. Sorry, my
First,
mistake. And now I can spotlight you. And with that, I will say thank you very much. Devante is the External Affairs Manager. And with that, we hand it over to you and say thank you for coming.
thank you. Yes, so Devontae Bell with the Care Department. I am currently the External Affairs Manager with the Care Department. I oversee a multitude of things from legislative affairs to public disclosure to community outreach and engagement, just a lot of things. But I am here to talk about the Care Department as a whole, mainly the 911 Center. And can you let me know if you guys can see the PowerPoint?
Yes, we can.
Okay,
You're good.
awesome. Thank you. So we're going to talk a little about 911, and if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and I can try to answer them after. So if you're not familiar, the Care Department is the third public safety department. We were officially founded as the Care Department in October of 2023, meant as the kind of department in between Seattle Fire and Seattle Police, to kind of help align our public safety services and investments and kind of help, inform our public policy when it comes to public safety, since we have a lot of the data in the 911 center. So currently, our department houses the 911 center and our crisis responders, which we're not going to talk too much about the crisis responders today because we are still currently updating their policies. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about the SPOG MOU passing that allowed for our crisis responders to respond to some calls solo without police. So we're currently in the process as a department with getting those policies implemented and getting our 911 call takers and dispatchers trained, and hopefully within the next couple of weeks we'll start having those crisis responders be dispatched solo to certain calls, mostly person down calls, low-level welfare checks, and maybe some assisted public calls. Once we have more information about that, though, I'll be sure to pass it along to Katie for her to disseminate to everyone. So going into the 911 center, this is what our 911 center looks like. Anybody is more than welcome to ask to do an observation in our 911 center. We do allow for that. You just have to fill out a form, and we have to do basic backgrounding, but you are able to observe if you're curious about how we operate within our center. So we are the largest public safety answering point, or PSAP, in Washington. We're one of 11, not 12 now, but one of 11 in King County. And we like to call ourselves the first responders as the 911 call takers and dispatchers. We receive over 800,000 calls per year, and I don't have the official number for last year, but I believe it's somewhere around 850,000 calls that we received last year in 2025. So obviously how to reach us is contacting 911, our non-emergency line, 625-5011. I do want to note our non-emergency wait times have gone down significantly over the last year. And actually, I just looked at the stats for this for December for last month, and the average wait time for non-emergency was 3 minutes and 50 seconds, which is a huge improvement from what it was a couple of years ago. So we are happy with the investments that the city council last year gave us for new 911 positions positions to help staff up the non-emergency line. Most people don't know, but our emergency call takers, they're the same people that are answering our non-emergency line as well. So when we were having those staffing issues a couple of years ago, the reason for the long wait times was for that reason, because we didn't have enough staff. The outside of the city number is the 583-2111 number. That number is only if you're outside the city. We ask people not to call that number unless you, again, are outside the city. Usually that number is reserved for other 911 centers to contact us or for alarm companies to contact us directly. But 911 centers do have a 10-digit line. So if you needed to reach, let's say Boston 911 and you called into Seattle, we could get their 10-digit phone number to connect you with their call center and vice versa. So that's why we do have that 10-digit line there. So calling 911, if you're not too familiar with us being the primary PSAP in the region and in the city of Seattle, anytime you call 911 within city limits, it's directed straight to our 911 center. And what happens from there is either we'll take the call if it's related to anything within our city limits that police will respond to. But if it's something that's occurring on the highway, we'll transfer it to State Patrol. If it is a medical or fire issue, we transfer to Seattle Fire. They have their own call center, which is the fire alarm center. So they'll take that call if it's related to their body of work. Similarly, if you're calling and it's something that's outside of our region, or if you do happen to call and get our center, but let's say, you're just south of Seattle, we'll transfer you to that 911 center if we need to. And basically how it works is typically you call 911. Most calls when you're calling 911 we'll just handle on that line, on the 911 line, and we'll put that call for service in. Typically it'll be put in, get sent to dispatch, and then it'll be dispatched out to officers. Unlike some other smaller call centers, our dispatchers and call takers are separate. So our call takers are solely just taking the call. They're not the ones actually dispatching the officers and talking to the officers. They do have the ability to transfer you to non-emergency if it is a call that does not, meet 911 criteria per se, and we just need to get you to a non-emergency call taker. They'll do that and they'll handle the call from there. So just some basic tips on calling 911. Obviously, let the call taker guide the call. We have certain questions we need to ask. Call takers like to ask questions in a certain order. Once you get your rhythm as a call taker, you're used to it. So they want to ask questions in the order that they're used to. So just let them guide the call. Biggest thing is knowing your location. That's always going to be the first thing that we ask is your location. So if you can give us your location, whether it's an address or a business name or just an intersection, that would be very helpful. And obviously just answer their questions. It's not delaying the response from officers. A lot of times when we get high priority calls, whether it's a shooting or maybe an armed robbery, and we're asking questions, obviously a person just went through something traumatic, and they get upset with the call taker for asking questions, and they feel like, oh, this is stopping officers from responding. Once we get that call and figure out what it is, we send it over to dispatch, and they get officers dispatched immediately. We're just getting that updated information for officers as they're responding to that situation. And we like to work off of facts, not assumptions. So the biggest thing I can always point out is when we ask, have you seen any weapons? And sometimes people might say, I don't know, but they have a book bag. We just want a simple yes or no. Have you seen them pull out a weapon? Did you see a weapon in the book bag? Yes or no? Because obviously that's going to change the way the officer responds to that call. So, like I said, address is the biggest thing. For anybody who has kids, it's good for them to know your address. And if they don't, a lot of times when we have 911 calls that involve kids that may not know their address, typically we'll try to ask them, hey, can you get a piece of mail that's maybe inside the house and give us the address off of that? Or we'll tell them to describe their house. So like if your house is a certain color or if there's a car outside in the driveway or in front of the house, we'll get details that way. We're not like the show 911 where we can just automatically sometimes see where you're at or see inside the building, obviously. But we can, when you call 911, what happens is we'll get the initial cell tower location that you're calling from if you are calling from a cell phone. And then it takes a few seconds to refresh to give us what's called a phase two location. The phase two location is usually a little bit more accurate, and we do have three different maps. So typically, based on one of those maps, we can get a fairly accurate location of where you are, but we still need to verify that you are in the actual location. Another question that will come up is about landlines or business phones. If your landline is registered to your home address, if you still have a landline, we will get that address when you call in. But again, we still like to verify. And a reason for that is if it's a voice over IP landline, let's say you move to a new location and you didn't update that account with the new address, well, we're going to see the old address, not the new address that you're at. So that's why we still like to verify. And then obviously we want to ask what happened. So just a brief description of what happened. Sometimes call takers will cut people off if they start to give us a whole backstory of things that happened 3 months ago. We just want to know what happened right then and there. If we need more information from there, we'll ask it. And we want to know how long ago did it happen. Um, we will always ask about any weapons involved, gun, knife, bat, rod, tree branch, whatever it might be. And sometimes we'll ask why it occurred. A good example of that is if you say, hey, someone just hit me as I was walking downtown, we might ask, okay, why did this happen or what led to that happening? Or was it just random? And then we'll always ask who was involved and get a description of that person and the victim, if applicable. So when it comes to descriptions, we like to go from top to bottom, outside to inside, because we want to get whatever the officer will see first as they're responding. Same with vehicles. They're going to see the color of the vehicle and make and model the vehicle before anything else. So we like to get all that information pretty quickly. So again, for high priority calls, a lot of times what will happen is we'll get kind of a quick description. And then once we get that description in, just to give something to the officers, we'll go back and maybe ask further clarifying questions about the person, whether or not they had like any identifiable scars or tattoos or, what color their shoes were, so on and so forth. So again, the call taker, they're the person that you're talking to when you're calling 911. They are determining the priority of the call. So the priority one is a threat to life. Priority two is what most calls typically fall under. Those are calls that could escalate if officers don't arrive soon. And then priority three are your typical report after the fact calls. So a lot of calls where, let's say you're waking up in the morning and you realize your car was broken into or something that's just basically a report where you just need an officer to come out and do the report for you are often priority three calls. Those will also be the calls that our crisis responders will be responding to, such as down subject calls or some low level welfare checks or assist the public calls. Priority four calls are pretty rare. Priority four calls are mostly for certain noise complaints and certain firework calls during the holidays. Those calls are just, as it says, as available. As long as nobody's life is in danger in that moment, nobody's hurt. Those are the type of calls that if officers are able to get to them, we'll send them to them when they're able to. This is just a basic screen of what the call taker screen looks like. Nothing fancy or fun. So that's just where they fill out all their information for the call before it's sent over to dispatch. This is just some of the online reporting that you can do. I do believe that online reporting does have more reports than this as well. So I would encourage you to go online to check that out. If you are curious what you can report online, I like to tell people to just be familiar with it because I would hate for you to be on hold on non-emergency just for us to tell you, hey, you have to report this online. So you can check it out at Seattle Police website for the online reporting. So the dispatcher role, once the call taker puts the call in to dispatch, dispatch is then prioritizing all those calls. So if it's not a priority one and it's a priority two, as again most calls are, we're prioritizing those calls within that category, the priority two calls. Because I might have, let's say, for example, a motor vehicle collision that's blocking, a lane of travel, and then I might also have a domestic violence call, both as a priority two. Which call am I going to send on first? and 9 times out of 10, it'd probably be the domestic violence call. So we do prioritization within those different priority levels. We're assigning the appropriate resources for all the calls. Certain calls may require more officers. Some calls I can just send one officer to if it's just a report call. And then just keeping record of everything that's going on. As officers arrive on calls, we're managing that radio traffic and keeping appropriate updates for the officers. This is what they see. I know a lot of people say it's a lot. It is a lot, but you get fairly used to it as a dispatcher or call taker. Now, I honestly can't work without at least 3 screens and an admin role, but yeah, this is the dispatcher's desk there. And this is kind of what their call screen looks like, or status screen, we call it. So if you see here, the red means that it's a priority one call. So these calls at this top are calls that we would say are holding or are pending in the queue. So a priority one call. Again, that would be dispatched immediately. This is a priority DV assault. And what the dispatcher would do is then look over here at the available units in green and say, okay, I have 2 Queen 32 and let's say, 2 Mary 2 to be en route to this DV assault in Queen sector, which is in Queen 3, the beat. So that's how dispatchers kind of determine who they're sending for calls. We go based on the location and the beat, and obviously, if Queen 32 wasn't available, we would send, one of the Mary sector cars or a David sector car to that disturbance. And then the priority two calls in white, and then you have your priority three calls there. At the bottom of the screen shows officers that are dispatched to other calls, whether they're arrived, which is the A, or en route, which is the E. And then you can see our mounted patrol and our parking enforcement, which is this Paul 8 unit. So we manage a lot of resources on our status screen, from officers to parking enforcement to community service officers and our crisis responders now. This is just what their map looks like. Again, nothing fancy, just kind of showing us where the offices are and then where the call for services are in the area. Something related to 911 is geography. This is something that for me, I've only been in Seattle since 2019, but when I started in 911 here, we had to learn geography. It was the hardest thing for me, being so new to the city. But geography in the city of Seattle actually makes a lot of sense. And I like to notate it because I feel like some people don't know. But if you don't know, streets in Seattle only run east and west. Avenues only go north and south. And we don't have a southeast directional in Seattle. We only have the directionals that are listed there. So we'll always verify and clarify if you are on, let's say 2700 First Avenue versus 2700 First Avenue South, because oftentimes that can mean that you're in totally different precincts. In North Precinct, that's not necessarily the case because North Precinct is so big. Whether you're in Northeast, Northwest, or it's a North directional, 9 times out of 10, you're just in North unless you're in Shoreline. And then we transfer you to the appropriate agency there. So we always like to just clarify the directionals, but it is still important in North because there are certain locations where there is a Northeast and Northwest. So we do want to make sure that we get that right. And this is just basic geography from our perspective of the different precincts. So again, as you can see, North Precinct is pretty large. So it's a lot to handle. I can tell you as a dispatcher, especially for new dispatchers, North Precinct is usually the precinct that most people are afraid of when it comes to dispatching, just because there are usually a lot of calls and it's a lot of management and just knowing, how to best utilize your resources that you have in that moment. But it's a pretty fun precinct to work as a dispatcher. So yeah, this is just our precincts and the breakdown of the different beats. So this is just a quick presentation. Might be too quick, but if you know anybody that's interested in 911, we are hiring. Great benefits, great pay. I would definitely recommend it. I did it for 6.5 years and I enjoyed it. So feel free to let people know. But I am here to answer any questions that people might have. I'm totally open to it.
Great. And so, Devante, if you want to take down your
Yes.
presentation and you can be highlighted, I like to go through and read the questions to you just so everybody gets them. And it's in
Yes.
our
Yeah.
recording if that works for you.
Yep.
Okay, first one. For Care Team, how effective is it to suggest help for homeless individuals that may be addicted or in mental crisis? The contacted persons have to take the initiative to go to physical office, detox, etc. Which exactly they have problems with follow through? So this is a little bit of a different part of care I get, but are you comfortable answering that?
Yeah, so you can. So yes and no. So yes, you can right now. We are still again developing those policies for the team to be solo dispatch. So as of yet, they haven't really been solo dispatched any calls because we haven't pushed out those policies to our dispatchers at this time because we've been in the process of developing and training those individuals. So yes, you will be able to just call and say, "Hey, I think this individual needs some assistance. They appear to be in crisis, or appear to be suffering from, mental illness or substance abuse." As long as it meets the criteria that's outlined in the MOU with SPOG, we're able to send our crisis responders. If it doesn't meet the criteria where, our team can be solo dispatch, they can be sent along with officers still. So there can still be a dual dispatch where the officers and the crisis responders are responding at the same time. To the second point of that question, yes, we are voluntary. So unfortunately, if they're not ready and willing to get help in that moment, there's little that we can do as a team. But if they do have, let's say, a case manager or anyone that they follow up with, our team can try to connect them with that person or follow up with that person to make sure that they get assistance.
Great. Jeff calls out that he did go to the 911 center on a tour and that it was fascinating. So that's cool. And I've seen another question further down, so we'll ask it now. People are asking how do they request to go to the 911 center for a tour?
So I will put an email in the chat, and you can just send an email to that inbox, and you can request a tour.
Great. Linda asks, any conversation about a satellite office for the North Precinct? I think she's speaking about 911, but you may want to reference the positions that are at North Precinct.
So are we talking about our crisis responders?
I think that because you mentioned, I think she's asking about 911, but I think that maybe this is a point to just call out a little distinction about what CARE does, who's in the precinct, and what are the 911 operations doing.
So 911 will not move. 911 is extremely expensive to move 911 and to even think about having a satellite office. So 911 is located at the Seattle Police West Precinct. It would cost millions of dollars to set up a new 911 facility, considering all the technology that we have. So we don't have a satellite office, and it's not something that we ever would consider. If anything, we would just consider moving the entire 911 center to another building to establish as kind of a care department because we don't really have a facility right now at this time. We're kind of spread out. But our crisis responders, they are in different locations. So we have crisis responders that are located at the Seattle Police North Precinct Annex building, so right behind the precinct. And then also they're co-located with University of Washington Police Department as well. So they're at the campus of UW.
That's great. Thank you. That's a good distinction. I think that's what she needed. Jeff also, I think, has just pulled something from probably your website that gives folks about how they can make general inquiries or provide feedback regarding their experience with the 911 folks. And he has helpfully put in an email where if people want to give a comment or a compliment or a criticism, whatever it is. So thank you, Jeff, for putting that in there. Anything else to add on that, Devante? No. Okay. Rudy is saying he was given Narcan by the city of Seattle. I think he means to utilize in case someone else needs it. He would like to return it to the care team or city hall. I don't want to put myself at risk until policymakers have made a solid plan. Um, and so was care team handing out Narcan for people to have available to help others? Is that something you've done in the past?
No, we haven't handed out Narcan. I'm not sure who has. I would say that your best bet is probably to return it to public health, and probably King County Public Health, because we don't really have a collection site, and we don't really take any like Narcan or meds or needles or anything as a care department.
Okay, great. I can also tell you, although Rudy, Jeff is also offering the next time that you two meet that he'll take it from you if you wish. But I will also tell you that your local public libraries do have Narcan, so that could be another place you might return it. Let's see. I'm not sure if this might be more for the captain asking about the response times for priority one and priority two. Is that for the captain, Devante?
It will be more for Seattle Police, yes.
Okay, okay. If someone isn't sure about calling 911 versus non-emergency, should they call 911 and let the operators decide?
Yeah, I always tell people call 911 if you're unsure. It takes, a couple seconds for us to say, oh, this is a non-emergency call. We'll transfer you over. So that's totally okay.
Great, thank you. I'm just going to put in a little edit, which I think there's still enormous confusion. For a lot of time, people were told, don't call 911, call non-emergency, and I think people are very unsure. So one of the reasons we wanted to do this presentation is for that very reason. So thank you very much.
No problem.
Susan has put the online reporting link into the chat, so that's very helpful. Um, Another person's asking, not sure who this goes to. Who do we call to report problems at a bus stop, especially when it's active? The stop market on 15th Northwest near Safeway often has people actively doing drugs, and then describes the situation. Actual transit users had to wait outside in the rain, etc. So at a bus stop, is that
This is one of those interesting ones. So we have a thing with King County where if something is happening at a bus shelter, at a bus stop, it is King County's jurisdiction. So typically, what will happen is when you call 911, the operator will, when you tell them that is at a bus stop, they'll be sure to clarify. And then what will often happen is they'll conference in King County 911 on the phone, and King County will be responsible for responding. Now, it does happen where King County may call us
Will
back
be
and say,
over shortly, and
um,
then I will.
please mute yourself, whomever that is. Okay, go
uh,
ahead, Devante.
it does happen where sometimes we'll transfer to King County and they'll call us back and say, "Hey, we don't have a deputy that's able to respond, so we need Seattle Police to respond. So we have to put in a call for service to respond." So that does happen, but I do understand the frustration with that. But that is just how the operation is that we have to conference in King County because technically that's their jurisdiction at bus shelters.
Okay, but the gist is the same. Call 911, describe it, and you guys will get it where it needs to go.
I will add to that too, though, if it is something that is violent, right? Let's say stabbing, shooting, even maybe an armed robbery, a life or death call, we will often still put in a call as well for our officers to respond. It may end up that King County ultimately takes that call and takes the report, but if it's something life-threatening, we'll still have our officers respond as well.
Okay, great, thank you. Is the Operations Center making plans for how to manage the World Cup next summer? And will you get additional staffing?
For 911, so we do have some training classes coming up for 911. We did receive some additional staffing in the most recent budget that passed. So I think we're going to have two 911 classes before June. But during the months of June and July, we're going to stop all training and 911 classes because we don't want people to be bogged down with training while FIFA is going on, because we're just anticipating an influx of calls during that time. So yes, we are actively still training people up until June.
Okay, great. Okay, let's see. got a couple for the captain. Note that Devonte put the email for care to request the 911 visit if you want it. And let's see. Nancy asks for property crimes called in after the fact. Can you explain the whys and wherefores of getting an incident number? Is it important to get one if it's pretty clear there will be no follow-up, no evidence, etc.? Can you get an incident number from both an officer? This might be more for the captain. Is that right? Okay. All right. Um, let's see. So Diane says, if you're on the bus, it's a transit police, but if you're at bus stop, it's King County Police. Just trying to clarify.
So I actually don't know the answer to that per se. I do know the answer to the latter of that question, the latter half of the bus stop. Yes, it is King County, but I believe it's still King County Transit Police. They're all a part of the sheriff's department, but someone can, maybe Captain Davison, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Okay, great. Well, I think we've come so far along. I think we've got some thank yous in here. Anyone else have any last questions for Devonte? I will make one comment while we see if anyone else weighs in. Oh, Nancy has one. Let's get this in next. If you want an officer to call back instead of coming out, oh, that's still for the captain. I beg your pardon.
I mean, you
Uh,
can let us know on 911.
okay.
So we do whether or not you want an officer to see you in person or not. Now, if you're talking about our internet and telephone reporting unit officers, they have certain criteria that has to be met in order for them to do callbacks, to do reports over the phone. But patrol officers, they do have that ability. Let's say if a person tells us on the 911 side, hey, I don't want an officer to come to my address. I might just want this to be done over the phone. We can notate on that on the call, and then the officer can then decide on their end if it's something they need to respond out to, or they can call the person to. And oftentimes, I have seen where officers will just call that person ahead of time before responding out there sometimes, and just ask them in that moment, and then go from there.
Okay. And one other thing just occurred to me. I went ahead and popped it in the chat just so we have a record of it. Can someone be anonymous on a 911 call?
You can. And I will say, though, there are still public disclosure laws out there to where, let's say if your number might still be notated on the call, that could still be released if, like, say, someone put in a public disclosure request, but your name may not be in there. Public disclosure gets a bit iffy in this state because it is extremely lenient about what can be released and what can't be released to the public. But typically, if you're a victim or a witness or a complainant to a crime and you let the officer know that you don't want your information to be released, they will redact it from any public disclosure requests.
Okay. And if someone masks their phone number when they call in, can you still locate them?
Actually, I don't know. I don't think I've ever come across that. I mean, at least no one has ever like told me, "Hey, I masked my call." So
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know the answer to that, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Uh,
And just following up on one last piece to that same issue, Diane asks, at what point in the call do we make clear that we want to be anonymous? Right immediately or at any point or
End of
what?
the call. Usually, at the end of the call is when we start to ask, your name, phone number, and things like that. And you can just say that you want to remain anonymous.
Okay. All right. That's great. Okay, that's good. One of the things I did want to call out that we really appreciate when we were setting up this agenda item, one of the things you forwarded was a really helpful website, which is relatively new. Looks like it went up kind of in October and it's about calling 911. And one of the things we've been just asking for years and years seemed like so evident was really straightforward, community-faced information that says when to call 911, what to say and stuff. And we'll include that link with our minutes and everything, but it's so helpful. And Susan just put it out there. So we appreciate that very much.
Of course, of course. And if you have any further questions or you need anything, I'm gonna put my information in the chat. Feel free to reach out.
That's great. Well, this has been really helpful. I know that, this is the sort of thing I know it's good for us to go over periodically. Um, anytime a person decides they, for some reason, need to call 911, that's already an incredibly stressful decision you're making. So trying to get a little familiar with what are the ground rules in advance so you have some familiarity is extremely helpful. So we very much appreciate your time talking to us tonight.
Of course.
Great. Thank you very much. I am going to remove the spotlight. And I think because I don't see Casey here yet, that what I'm going to do is, Mateo, could you unmute yourself and open your camera? We have a little addition to our agenda tonight. Mateo reached out from DESC, the Downtown Emergency Service Center, to ask if he could have a few minutes on our agenda to talk about the new permanent supportive housing unit that's coming online on Aurora at about 49th. So Mateo Chavez is, if you want to just, you have 5 minutes. If you want to tell us your title and just give us an overview, that would be great. Do you have any kind of presentation, or are you just going to talk?
I have information that I'm trying to post in the chat, but
Perfect.
it's not sending.
Okay, well, you can send it to me after, but go ahead
Okay.
and talk to us. Thank
Yeah,
you.
so my name's Mateo Chavez, DESC. I am the Community Engagement Coordinator, and my primary job is to work in the neighborhoods where DESC exists. And along Aurora, we have coming online our fifth permanent supportive housing building, Clover Place. And we have two shelters also as well that are coordinated with all of our like health facilities, our downtown uh, Orca Center, overdose recovery, things like that. So we're planning on moving 95 more people indoors at the start of February to house them permanently and provide wraparound services for those individuals. I also have here with me Darius Knight, the project manager of Clover Place, and Dawa goes behind the senior program manager, and I'll let them introduce themselves in just a moment. Uh, yeah, I mentioned 95 units, and we stretch all along the Aurora corridor. We have built relationships with SPD North Precinct, and we have quarterly cohort meetings with them to discuss the health and safety of the Aurora corridor. They've done inspections on our buildings that have led to increased security and fixing problems. And yeah, that's what I got so far. And so now I'll turn it over to Darius to introduce himself while I try to get this information in the chat.
And Darius, you're on. Go.
Yes, thank you, Mateo. Hello, I'm Darius. I'm the project manager at Clover Place at DESC. So just a quick rundown. I deal with all operations of daily operations of Clover Place. So that's with the residents, with the staff, and any issues that's going on in and outside the building. So if something's going on outside or inside the building or anything with our staff or residents, I would be the person to contact. And then I can leave my email in the chat as well.
Okay, that would be great. So we're talking about the folks who live, this is just south of Woodland Park Zoo, and the new building is on the west side of Aurora, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, so
And then my name is I'm Dawa Goes Behind. I'm the senior program manager
another one. Hang
for
on.
DESC. Can you hear
I'll
me?
add you in. There you go. Okay,
Okay.
welcome.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Dawa Goes Behind. I am the senior project manager for DESC. This is my fifth building bringing on board at DESC, and I really just we wanted to reach out to this neighborhood and let them know that outside of the work that we do, the important work that we do for the folks that are transitioning from homelessness into stability, into housing. We want to be clear and take responsibility for what happens in and around our buildings, and we are actively strengthening our staff accountability and supervision. We are setting clear protocols for crisis escalation and documentation follow-up and corrective action. And so when residents cause harm or repeated disruption, we intervene clinically and we adjust service intensity, and we involve leadership, not just frontline staff. And so this is a whole team that we're bringing into this project. With this project, we're bringing in clinical, medical, and also behavioral health, as well as property management as well. And so we are bringing community into this community. And if you have any issues or you have any questions, you can contact myself, Darius, or Mateo, and I'll also leave my information in the chat.
Now, again, we didn't warn folks you were coming, so they may not all have their questions thought out. So one of the questions I'm going to ask on everyone's behalf is, what is the difference between permanent and transitional supportive housing?
That's a great question, and we have the answer. So permanent supportive is this is some people, this is going to be their last home. We really focus on making our home a community for folks, and it's not transitional where they're not shifting from another emergency housing site or a entry service site, but we focus on building community. So we have programs for folks inside our sites. We offer meals. Some of our permanent supportive sites have 3 meals a day. We have, like I said, groups that deal with either substance abuse, or groups just with painting or knitting or etc. And so we really try to create community for a permanent community for our residents.
Great. By the way, I'm letting this run a bit long because Casey has not popped into the conversation yet. So we'll keep using your time if that's okay with you guys.
No,
Um,
100%.
and could you tell us, how are people screened? What are they screened for when they're chosen to live in this new place?
Yeah, 100%. And so what we really focus on DESC is those that are the most vulnerable. Folks that have this is the last chance housing, right? That they wouldn't able to find a housing or shelter in any other place. DESC, we really focus on serving those that have high acuity, that substance abuse, that have been chronically homeless, that have mental health issues, etc. We really try to make a home for them, and that's difficult work. And I think Darius and Mateo can speak to that and that difficulty. And we're constantly training our staff. We're constantly training our frontline staff. We are constantly moving as a team to figure out how do we strategize to solve these issues on the ground with serving this population.
Great. Are you fully staffed at the new place?
We are working on it. We have about we've hired our frontline staff as of now, and we're now hiring. Now we're beginning to hiring our front some other frontline staff. We've hired all of our leaders, I should say. So our leadership team has been hired, and now we're focusing on finishing hiring our frontline staff. We also want to invite you folks to our grand opening that Mateo can talk about as well, and just so you get a tour of the building, get a tour of the facilities, and then see what type of services and grounds that we offer our residents.
And before we have Mateo do that, Eric asks a good question. Will there be a formal good neighbor agreement between Clover Place and the community? How does that work?
Yes, 100%. We have a formal agreement. We'll like to share that with this group as well. We can send that to you. We have a good neighbor agreement with all of our locations. This is going to be sort of our poster child of how we really merge clinical, medical, and behavioral health into our buildings. If you noticed in some of our other areas, we may not have those or funding to be able to staff medical and clinical inside of our buildings. And this is going to be a really unique project that we're excited about because we can sort of meet some of our those behavioral health and those mental health folks that need that services, as well as that property management piece. And so we do have the good neighbor, and we can share that good neighbor letter. We'll share that with you guys as well.
Mateo, do you want to speak to a couple of the things that have been tossed to you? And then might be able to get in one or two. It depends on when Casey shows up. So go for it.
Yeah, sure. So I saw in the chat a question about 143rd Avenue and what's going on there. Like I mentioned before, we do work with SPD North Precinct. We have quarterly meetings and we actively discuss that area because it's been really complex there. There's a lot of different factors that might not be totally visible, but it's very condensed with several apartment buildings besides our own. And one of the contributors to the increase of homeless folks there was the moratorium rent, or the rent moratorium that ended with the pandemic. Several people from other buildings were put out on the street. We've actually housed a few of those, and we have neighborhood meetings and are connected with all of those other buildings. And we've met several times in 2025. And I believe that we still have plans to continue to meet with them and look at options for that area. I want to also mention that we have neighborhood engagement coordinators that are specifically tasked with patrolling all of those areas, doing specific outreach to the homeless population in those areas, and providing them real resources to get into shelters, to get into housing and services.
Okay, great. Let's see. So you've mentioned the 143rd in Aurora issues. Um, let's see. We're not going to get into a theoretical discussion of housing first. I don't think we can go there right now. Linda asked a good question. Are there treatment, and this is going back to, well, the new one, but generally, what are treatment requirements for substance abuse as a condition of housing in DESC buildings? Does DESC have clean and sober housing?
No, we do not. We, like I said, we do have a trauma-informed and housing-first model that substance you don't have to be engaged in any sort of treatment in order to receive our housing, and that's the solution that we're trying to solve here. Is that housing first, and then we work on those other pieces when you're inside of our communities.
Okay. Let's see. So the open house for Clover Park is on February 4th is the grand opening. So thank you. And I think we're going to go ahead and shift at this point. It's getting to be about the captain's time. You got to use both the city attorney's time and the King County prosecuting attorney's time because they just aren't here. So it happened to turn out well. Mateo, thank you so much for reaching out.
Yeah,
We would like to continue to have you guys participate. Mateo, I put you on our agenda email list, so you're always going to know when we're meeting, and we'd love to see you again because this housing issue is something we've all got to keep talking about,
sure.
so that we are not just talking at each other, but trying to figure out how to make things work.
Yeah, I'll definitely be there. And thank you so much for the time. I put all our contact information in the chat and a description of Clover Place. If you have any questions, reach out to us.
Great. Thank you all very much. We
Thank you.
appreciate you being here. I'm going to remove your spotlights and then I'm going to find the captain. Again, thank you for being here. And I'm going to find the captain. Hello, Captain Davison. There you are.
Hello.
It's kind of nice when a couple of your regular speakers don't show up that another one shows up and slides in. That worked out, and that was a really helpful presentation. Now, you have kind of two challenges because we gave you some things to follow up about with the first presentation about 911, so hopefully you can address that. And I don't know if there's anything about the DESC that you want to refer to, but with that, I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to you and say thank you and Happy New Year. We're glad to see you.
Thank you. Happy New Year as well. Real quick, I had my CSTAT presentation this morning, which is when I present to the chiefs and the other department heads. So kind of a year review for the North Precinct for 2025. We did have an increase in homicides by 2, from 9 to 11. Robberies were down 22%. Aggravated assaults were down 8%. Burglaries were down 17%. Larceny theft was down 11%, and motor vehicle theft was down 28%. So total crime reduction in the North Precinct is 14% for the year of 2025. With regards to shots fired, we actually had the percentage here. We had a 25% decrease from last year and a 14% decrease from 2023. We had 135 incidents of shots fired with verifiable evidence or injury or death. So a total of 135 for all the shots fired. And over the last 2 months, our shots fired have dropped down to 5 incidents each month, which is pretty significant. That was the high was January of 2025. We had 17 incidents, and since then it's dropped down and had 5 in the last couple of months. Some of the priority areas, the Lake City area, we had a 33% drop in aggravated assaults. There was a 50% increase in rapes, but that was from 2 to 3. And with the way statistics work, low numbers equal large increase. So it was a 1 increase. None are acceptable, but it's 50% seems like a lot more than the number that was actually reported. So robberies are down 6% in the Lake City area. Arsons equal to last year. There was 1 incident last year, and there was 1 incident this year. Burglaries were down 63%. Larceny theft was down 32%, and motor vehicle theft was down 68% in that area. And then shots fired, it went from 8 last year to 4 this year. And then moving on to the University District for Don Blakeney. I know you're sitting on here. So the University District, kind of the heart of the area there, they had 7 shootings kind of in the meat of the University District. So around 47 in Brooklyn to University Way, all of that. That was one of the priority areas, trying to get more officers in that area. So any of these areas that I'm talking about, we try to do additional directed patrols, more foot beats, trying to get officers to stay in the area as much as possible. That's why you see some of the drop with the officers that we do have. We try to keep them there. So there were 7 shootings in that area in 2024. This year there were 3. None of them were fatal. There was a 37% drop in aggravated assaults, a 44% drop in rapes. Robberies, there was a 22% drop. And so violent crime total drop is 31%. Arsons were equal to last year, 4 and 4. Burglaries down 26%, larceny down 19%, and then motor vehicle theft is up a little bit. There's a new program that we will be instituting in SPD in a little bit. I can't really talk about it until it's been released, but essentially it's an informational broadcast that go to SPD officers and captains when we have a number of incidents that happen in a certain area within a certain distance. We get an alert to say, hey, there's an issue in this area within this time frame and this date and time and location, and then we can dispatch additional officers or put additional personnel in that area to see if we can impact that a little bit more. So we get kind of a real-time what's going on. And that's all projected by our data analytics people. Magnuson Park and Golden Gardens have pretty much decreased fairly significantly. In fact, 1 incident in Golden Gardens in the last month, 1 property crime reported, no violent crime reported in the last month or several months, I should say. And then Magnuson Park, it's down as well from a peak of 16 property crime incidents in June and July, down to 4 in the last month. And then last but not least, our Aurora area. So we are up in robberies and aggravated assaults on Aurora, 6.4% in robbery and 24% in aggravated assault, but rapes are down 7.1. Homicides are equal to last year. Arson's down 33%, burglary down 10%, larceny theft down 22%, and motor vehicle theft down 26%. And then shots fired are down. There's not a percentage here, but we had 52 last year and then 43 this year, meaning 2025. So with that being said, I wanted to answer the questions that you sent me here. I got to pull them up. Give me 1 second.
While you're pulling that up, I'll just point out to people that every time the captain provides those statistics, that document he's reading from is uploaded into the drive for our meeting minutes. So you can always find it there. So if that's a lot of numbers to remember, just remember the document he's reading from is available to you. No
Sort
problem.
of. Sort of.
Okay.
The document that's sent to you gives an overall caption, kind of a snapshot. And then
Okay.
what I was reading from were more of a report out of what I reported to our chief today.
Is that available publicly?
I don't know. That would go, it's created through our data analytics platform. So they're the ones that you would request that from. But I mean, all of our data, all our captures are public information. So it's
Okay.
not something that we're hiding.
Thank you.
But I won't release it. That's our data. Our data unit would do that for you.
Okay.
So, oh, uh, yeah. So the questions that I received from you. So, do officers explain to folks the likelihood of any follow-up? So, I'm guessing this is in relation to care and 911 calls. So, when officers go to calls, we're actually told as patrol officers, it's been this way for a long time, is that we don't guarantee whether or not there's going to be a follow-up detective that's going to contact you or whether or not there is follow-up that we can do. We will do the best to gather all the information we have, gather all the evidence that we have, and then we write up a report and submit that evidence. And then how it works on the back end is a detective sergeant. Cases come in and based off of their title. So if it's a robbery, it's going to go to our robbery unit. If it's related to gangs, it'll go to our gun violence reduction unit. If it's a homicide or assault, it goes to homicide and assault, bias crimes, things like that. So it'll get routed automatically to the unit charged with kind of following up on those. And if there's an in custody case or something that we can follow up on, the sergeant of that unit or multiple sergeants of that unit will review all those reports, and they have to determine whether or not, based off of what they're reading and the information that's in there, if there's enough information to solve that case or identify a suspect and arrest a suspect. There's also thresholds with being able to prosecute a crime. Some crimes the prosecutor's office won't charge because it's not a high enough threshold for them to charge a person. So those detective sergeants all have that information, and they will screen each of those reports and determine the likelihood of us being able to solve that crime. And then they also have to take into kind of a factor of whether or not the detectives, if we have enough detectives to solve the type of crime that's being reported. So homicide and assaults, they're going to follow up on as many as they possibly can, of course, as long as they have suspect information and they're able to do it. But if there's no evidence, you have somebody break into your house, officers check for fingerprints. There's no fingerprints, no video. The likelihood of us being able to solve that or determine who a suspect are very, very slim. So that'll probably be an inactivated case. And it won't get assigned, versus there's clear video or fingerprints that have been submitted that'll be assigned to somebody until the fingerprints come back. And if the fingerprints come back as a suspect, then that detective will get assigned and they'll work that case. So that's that. What percentage of incident reports get followed up given staffing? Again, that depends on type of crime, how many detectives we have working cases, what kind of threshold the prosecutor's office allows for us to file cases. To give you an example, some of the threshold for loss for thefts, if it's not above a certain threshold, the prosecutor's office won't file a charge. So therefore, we wouldn't follow up on that case. How many investigators are there? I had our data analytics people pull this for me. Just give me 1 second. So currently on the department, we have in our system, we have 113 detectives, and that's officially assigned detectives. There are also acting police officer detectives, so people that have been assigned to a unit but don't have the official title yet, and then detective sergeants, and so 180 total people working some form of investigation. So whether or not they're working homicide, GVRU or gun violence reduction unit, vice, narcotics, all the different units. So that number of people are split up. That includes our detective sergeants as well. Let me see what the next question is. What kind of incidents are most likely to be investigated? I think I covered that pretty well. What kind of information is most likely to make an incident more likely to be followed up on? Something with evidence or somebody in custody, like solid evidence or somebody in custody, or a known suspect. Those will be followed up on pretty quickly, or something with good video. Could you report the historical trend on homicides in Seattle at tonight's meeting? Yes, I had our data analytics pull that too. So I had them pull the last 10 years. And in the last 10 years, the highest count of homicide victims was in 2023. That was 73 people were killed in 2023 in that same time frame. So in this 10-year gap, there's been 463 homicides in Seattle for 10 years. And then this past year, we actually went down to the lowest rate since 2019. So we had 33, I believe, homicides in this past year. So we do keep track of it. It did spike in 2023, and then it's been dropping since. Sorry, I have to keep on flipping to the page. Last but not least, so what have you heard about the confusion and controversy about comments from the new city attorney and the mayor regarding SPD's enforcement of drug laws? So that there was the article in the newspaper indicating that that SPD doesn't arrest anybody for open air drug use anymore, which was not true. It was, I think, the way that it was written by the how it was written by the chief was misinterpreted. And he has since then said, look, we're still doing the same thing that we're doing. We're following our laws and our policies. We're still making arrests. The change is that, or the difference is that the King County Prosecutor's Office now, when they receive a case, will determine whether or not they're going to divert it to lead or some form of diversion or prosecute. So police are still doing the same thing that they were. And then the prosecutor's office will do their own diversion if they choose. We still have the option of deferring to lead as well beforehand. That's in our policy, so we're still following all of our same policies. And I think that covers the questions that you had for me, and I'm sure that there's a lot more now. So
great. So we've got let's see, from Nancy, for property crimes called in after the fact, can you explain the whys and wherefores of getting an incident number? It's important to get one, even if it's pretty clear there will be no follow-up, no evidence, etc. Do all 911 calls and non-emergency calls get added to the SPD online crime map and SPD crime statistics? So a couple of different questions in there.
So yes, it's really important to report your crime, whether or not we can follow up on it or not. It allows us to track it. I gave you all those stats. That's only what we can track, right? The statistics are only what you report and what we can track. If you don't report it, then we don't know about it. So I highly suggest that you either do online reporting, telephone reporting, or if it's like a burglary, you can have an officer respond out and take a report.
Okay. And what about getting an incident number?
So yeah, whenever you report a case online through through the telephone reporting unit or online, they should be giving a case number. If they don't, then you can call back and get one through the non-emergency number. And then when an officer responds, they'll give you a case number. All you have to do is ask. They should be providing a business card with a case number on it anyway, if they're writing a report.
Okay. Let's see. I want to point out to folks that something that Susan put a link in there. People have asked some data questions. You can go to the SPD data site yourselves and pull data. It does break down by neighborhood. So if you're not familiar with that, look in the chat for the link that Susan's provided. We have had the data folks come. It's probably time for them to come again and sort of talk about it because we get a lot of new people. But you can get hold of the data for your neighborhood. So just so you know, you can do it yourself. Linda asked, does SPD track overdose deaths, or is that a different place like public health, or do you know?
I think that's probably King County Public Health. When we do write reports on every death that we respond to, but if it's like a death at a facility and they call the medical examiner directly, then we wouldn't have any interaction. It's only the ones that we would respond to that we would have documentation on. But the King County Public Health, they record every death in the city of Seattle and King County as well. So they would have all those statistics for you.
Great. Okay. Um, okay, bouncing around a little bit. Eric has provided Linda with a link to the dashboard at King County for the data she wants. Susan is asking, is there a difference between a case number and an incident number?
Well, an event number or a case number, they're pretty much they're one and the same. An event number for us, every single incident, every single thing that gets reported to 911 draws an event number, right? It becomes a case number or an incident number when an officer writes a report. So,
okay, sounds good. Okay, I think with that, I think we've gone through most of the questions. So in an unusual situation, we have a little time. And Rudy, I see your question about your Narcan, but I think we've addressed your Narcan. There's several places. Jeffrey is willing to take it from you, so we're going to go ahead and assume that's what you're going to sort out. So Captain, I think I'm going to ask if there's folks, we could open up for some questions. If you want to use the hand raise icon, you need to put up your hand so that I can see you and you can wait to be called on. If not, we can close early.
I was going to say real quick, I'll give one shout out to a couple officers that did some great work last night. Yeah, they did a traffic stop on a vehicle that didn't have any headlights on and didn't have a license plate up at 96 in Aurora. Ultimately, they contacted the driver. The driver said that they didn't have ID. They pulled the driver out of the car, started talking to him, identified him, verified that he was listed as a missing juvenile. So the officers then conducted a pat search of him to place him in a car to take custody of him. And they located a firearm on the juvenile hidden underneath his armpit. And that person had the firearm was a Glock 17 with a switch. So, yeah, which basically can turn into an automatic weapon. It was a 9mm with an extended magazine. The juvenile had several convictions as well, and then ultimately was booked into YSC. So officers doing phenomenal work out there. That's just one example of the many.
That's great. Did he by any chance reach the magic number of, I think Casey's told us 5
I think
prior convictions?
if I recall, it has to be 5 firearms convictions, correct? So I do not believe that he reached the magic number of 5.
For those of you who don't know what I'm referring to, Casey McNerthney, who is normally here, has pointed out that under the law, there's some limits on what you can do with juveniles until they have acquired sufficient firearms issues. And so it's an ongoing problem. So, okay.
And another thing that I would like to address real quick, we have been getting several, I would say, waves, several officers to the precinct coming off of training. We've had probably 5 to 6 added on to our third watch, which have allowed for internal transfers, meaning that officers going from one watch to another watch that have been waiting for 2 years to try to get to a different watch for their family reasons or whatever. So the new officers are going to third watch, and then officers are transferring to second watch and first watch, which is improving everybody's mental health and happiness here at the precinct.
Yes.
We're supposed to get, at this point in time, I believe we're supposed to get 4 additional officers in January. So that's really good just for the North Precinct.
Right. And before I take your question, I see you, Rudy. We've got a good amount of time left. Could I ask you to call out, are any of the crime prevention team on? Because with all the conversation we've had about crime, it'd be nice to point out those resources that folks can reach out to get help with. I don't know if you have someone. I didn't see anyone. Is
Yeah.
Anna?
Yep. Anna and Caitlin are here. We're the
Oh,
crime
great.
prevention coordinators for North. I'm Northeast and Caitlin's Northwest. Some of the kind of resources we offer are security assessments for businesses and residential homes. And those kind of look like 30 minutes to an hour of us kind of taking a peek, a walk around your business or home and pointing out any maybe security vulnerabilities. And we use a SEPTED framework to conduct these. We also host Block Watch, kind of help people get started for that. We do a lot of community meetings. That's why we're here today. We're a conduit between community members and SPD. So we like to get out information kind of both ways. Caitlin, if you wanted to add anything, what else we do?
No, those are two good ones. Those are the ones that we're getting a lot of requests for now. I currently am unfortunately booking into like February, March, but we're an amazing resource and we're here to assist with anything you guys need. We'll put our emails in the chat, and so feel free to email us if you have any questions. But we do also blast out any kind of events or information that we have. So if you're not getting emails from us, we recently posted about the Coffee with a Cop. That we're having, actually it's next week. We're going to have one in Green Lake at their Starbucks location. I will put that information actually also in the chat. But if you're not receiving emails from us but you would like to, feel free to email us and let us know that you'd like to be added to our email list, and we can make sure to add you guys to that.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate highlighting that when we have a few minutes, because I think we have a number of new folks tonight. So let me put the captain back on the spot. And then hang on, Rudy, I will get to you. If anybody else has a question too after Rudy, if you want to unmute yourself, you can speak.
Yeah, this is for the captain and CSOs and anybody that's still with us from the care team. As you know, I'm on the streets and I see the depth and despair, and I see some of the violence. And we're encouraged to call 911, and sometimes it takes longer due to staffing shortages. And I understand at the North Precinct. But I tell you this is that I will not support giving Narcan until I thought things were different. I didn't know the policy staying the same. That we're going, there are arrests. That we're doing the things that we've always done, and so to me, I don't see this. I saw Jane today because I was at the North Precinct. CSO officer. I had to park behind her. But I don't see the care team. I don't see lead. I don't see some of these social services that are all gung ho right now that should have been gung ho 2 years ago. And if somebody's down and you think I'm going to go wake them up and have them clobber me because I wake them out of a high, you're crazy. I mean, that's just crazy. That's just asking me to go to ER and then listen to this board say, I'm sorry that happened to you. You need to be careful. So Captain,
Okay.
I hold on a second. I'm not quite done. I want to make sure that this Narcan goes either to a city department, not to a regular citizen, but to a department head and take it. And I will not use it until further notice, until there's a policy that I understand that I can share with others.
Okay, Rudy, let's let the captain speak. Thank you.
With regards to the Narcan, I don't know where you got it. I don't know. I would return it to where you got it, potentially to the fire department as well. They also deploy with Narcan, and then sounds like at the libraries as well. I heard they offer them there. So if you wanted to return it there, then I believe that would be an option. And then with regards to the care team, I do see them every day. They're in the annex across the way from us. They're directly across the street from us, and all their vehicles are parked. I believe that you're saying that they're not deployed. One of the things that we were waiting for with the care unit was the contract, the SPD contract with SPOG to get passed, which allows for care to be dispatched to calls on their own versus having to go with an officer. That contract has passed. So there, as the CARE representative that was on here earlier was mentioning, they're currently working through their own policies and procedures and how they're going to deploy now that they have those that ability. So more to come on that in the future once we see how that develops.
And Captain, real quick, we are getting taxed on that already. My business is has an increase in the sales tax to pay for that funding, to pay for the care team. So, for me, I'm paying, but I'm not seeing any results. And I do see them parked at the North Precinct, and I don't see them out on the streets. So I understand that it's a contract issue. Thank you for that information.
Okay, thank you, Rudy. Okay. Folks, we are on track to finish a bit early. Captain, do you have anything else that you want to share for the good of the order?
No, I mean, the thing that I ended with in my conversation with the chief today is that the officers, I don't deserve any of the credit. The officers are out there working really, really hard, day in and day out, making arrests. Tonight, there was a task force call out to head downtown and assist in a potential demonstration just to make sure that everybody was safe. And then the officers that are left here at the precinct are answering all the 911 calls and trying to keep people safe here. So other than
Great.
that, I just think that the officers up here and the personnel up here are just phenomenal. So.
Great. Well, again, our goal with North Pack is to have the folks who live in the North Precinct get that direct access to ask their questions, learn about how things work. I think there's been some great information today. Remember that we record these meetings and the chat will also be available in our minutes folder. We usually post to YouTube promptly after the meeting's over. So if you miss one of our meetings, you can see it again. Or if it was so great, you just have to watch it, 2-3 times. It's all there on YouTube. So any rate, I think we are pretty close to done. And I think we're going to end early. I'm going to remind you all that next month we have Paige Ulrey, who's the senior King County prosecuting attorney who is in charge of the elder abuse division. And I think she'll have some really interesting information. If you have questions regarding that kind of work, please send them on to us. You remember that you can always send questions into us at any time of the month when we tell you what's going to be occurring next month. So we appreciate you all being here. I hope you all got some good information this month. And oops, Diane is trying to get her hand in at the very last minute. Diane, if you want to unmute yourself.
Sorry, I just thought of a question. Are average citizens also able to tour the North Precinct?
I'm not sure if the captain is still on. He's muted.
I'm coming back on.
Okay.
I don't know. That's a question that, generally we have officers walk people through if they're representatives of another department or something like that. Let me look into that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Captain, it wouldn't be a bad idea to give people.
I do know. Well, I will say you do have the option of doing a ride along, which would give you that opportunity to see what the precinct looks like. You come in, you fill out a civilian rider waiver, which gives us permission to do a background check. Obviously, when you're in a patrol car with us, we kind of need to make sure that what's going on in your history. We don't want people that are going to assault us while we're on calls. So ultimately, you do have that option to fill out a rider waiver, and then we try to get you assigned to somebody to take you out for a couple hours to see what it's like. So,
great.
Thank you.
It's not a bad idea, Captain, for you to let the general public see the state of the North Precinct. You might find
it's infamous.
There's
I've
more
heard so much
support
about
for
it.
replacing it. Those of us who've been around for a while know that it's a little overcrowded and it's seen better days. Okay, folks, thank you again so very much. A very happy New Year to you all. If the board would stay on, we are going to close a couple minutes early. So thank you all for attending, and I will stop the recording now. Thank you.
All right, thanks.